With schedules tighter than ever, many of us find it nearly impossible to make time for ourselves. Time to enjoy things we love like stamping and paper crafting. Fellow stampers tell me all the time how much they would love to attend a class, but they have a scheduling conflict already or just can't squeeze out a couple of hours for themselves. This is why I decided to move my monthly technique classes from my home to the virtual world online. When you join my monthly virtual technique club, you will be given access to an exclusive webpage containing a video tutorial and a printable quick reference sheet for each of the 2 technique-focused projects. Not only will you learn start to finish how to make 2 new projects to each month, you'll also be adding 2 new techniques to your stamping repertoire. With Virtual Technique Club, it's available anytime 24/7. This means no scheduling conflicts, no driving across town, and no fighting the traffic. Learning 2 new stamping techniques each month means you can do more with the tools and supplies you already own. Seeing how to use tools and supplies before you invest in them means no more product lying around you don't know how to use or decided you didn't like after you bought it. If you're tired of not being able to see what the instructor is doing in traditional classes, you'll love always having a front row seat, and you can watch a lesson over and over until you understand it perfectly. And there's no more wondering how to do a technique you learned months or even years ago. Because the classes are virtual, they will be available online to you forever. Here's our sample, and the featured technique for this project is watercoloring. We're going to watercolor her using the squeeze technique in the ink pad, in a classic ink pad. So first thing, I'm going to show you all the pieces you'll need. Here, this is Riding Hood Red, and it's just a normal size card base, which is 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4, and I went ahead and scored that and creased it with my bone folder. And then, since this is a red card, I like to make a liner to go on the inside of the card. So this is very vanilla, and it is 4 inches by 5 1/4. Then on the front, the black Designer Series paper is 4 1/4 wide by 3 1/2 high. Whoops. The red, and this is all these 3 designer papers are from the Love Letters pack. This one is 4 1/4 by 2 1/2. The Houndstooth, just double check here, is 3 by 2 3/4, and then our little vanilla piece that we're going to stamp the girl on is 2 1/2 by 2 1/4. The other things that you'll need is, this is the Victoria crocheted trim, and I just cut that a little bit wider than my card, and then this is the piece that we'll make our knot from. This is, I usually cut them about 5 inches long, and then you're going to use the smallest heart from the Heart to Heart punch, and you'll punch 3 of those from a scrap of Riding Hood Red cardstock. So those are all the pieces we'll need, and you can find all those measurements on the printable quick reference sheet for this project. So I'm going to show you how to watercolor using the squeeze technique. The first thing we're going to do is take some StazOn jet black ink, and stamp the little girl. Now the little girl is from the Greeting Cards Kid set. And just put her in the center. And this vanilla paper should be taller than wide. There we go. And we're using this StazOn because it will not bleed when you're coloring. Now the next thing you're going to use is an aqua painter. And if you're not familiar with an aqua painter, when you order them from Stampin' Up, you're going to get 2 different sizes, a small and a larger. I tend to use the smaller one most of the time. The larger one I generally only use if I'm doing like a big background or something like that. But the way that an aqua painter works is you just unscrew it, fill this little reservoir with water, and put this back on. Now, when you're using it, if you just squeeze it a tiny bit, and I mean a tiny bit, and give it a second, you'll feel the water will come down and get this brush wet. And this is just like when you were a kid and you did, paint with water or watercolor painting. You had a paintbrush and a little, cup full of water. Well, instead of having a cup that you're going to knock over, it's stored in your brush. So that's a nice thing. All right. So the squeeze technique is pretty simple. The great thing about Stampin' Up! Ink pads is that you can do this with them, because most ink pads you can't. You're simply going to squish your ink pad while it's closed, and then when you pop it open, there's going to be some ink here in the lid. So just pick it up on your brush, and what I like to do is start by going over these dark lines. I'm painting her dress with Pretty in Pink. I go over those lines. Anywhere they've put those little hash lines,